Right now, you're picturing a caveman. Furs, a club, maybe a fire. That image is wrong, and the real story is stranger. The oldest confirmed evidence of humans getting high on cannabis isn't from some foggy Stone Age campfire. It's from a funeral. A funeral held 10,000 feet up in the mountains for people who traded silk from China and carried harps from the other side of Asia. And the reason they were smoking has almost nothing to do with getting stoned for fun. So let's fix the caveman picture first, because it matters. Actual cavemen, Paleolithic hunter-gatherers, left us stone tools and cave paintings, not smoking pipes. The habit we're talking about tonight is much younger than that, but it's still old enough to make your head spin. We're talking about roughly 2,500 years ago, older than the Roman Empire, older than the New Testament, older than paper money. And it comes from one of the most oddly specific archaeological finds you'll ever hear about. Wooden bowls hidden inside tombs that had literally been used as bongs. Here's the discovery. In the Pamir Mountains, on the border of what's now western China, sits a burial ground called Jirzankal Cemetery. It's brutal terrain, over 3,000 meters above sea level, rocky, thin air. In 2013, archaeologists opened up a cluster of tombs there and found something odd sitting next to the skeletons. 10 small wooden braziers, basically portable fire bowls, each one containing stones that had clearly been superheated. At first, that just looks like incense burning. Ancient funerals did that all the time. Nothing weird yet. Except when a team led by archaeologist Emin Yang at the University of Chinese Academy of Sciences ran chemical analysis on the char left inside those bowls. They found something nobody expected. 9 of the 10 braziers were loaded with cannabinoids. Not hemp fiber residue. Not seed oil. The actual psychoactive compounds. Someone, 2,500 years ago, on a mountain, was burning weed over hot rocks and breathing in the smoke. And here's where it gets weirder. The THC levels weren't low, like you'd expect from wild hemp grown for rope or cloth. They were high, suspiciously high, which means these weren't just random wild plants somebody tossed on the fire. Somebody had found, or was actively selecting, unusually potent cannabis on purpose for the effect it produced. Which raises the obvious question. Why would you go through that effort at a funeral? This is where the twist comes in, and it's the twist the whole video is built around. Everyone assumes getting high was originally a recreational thing, some ancient version of a house party that religion and medicine slowly attached themselves to later. But the evidence says the opposite. The ritual came first. The high was a tool for communicating with the dead, not an escape from boredom. Paleoethnobotanist Robert Spengler, who has studied plant use across this exact region, points out that these braziers were concentrated in the more elite tombs, the ones with imported silk and foreign harps. This wasn't a casual habit for everybody. It looked deliberate, expensive, almost ceremonial, more like burning specific incense at a specific moment in a specific ritual than lighting up because you're bored around the fire. Quick gut check. Think about the last funeral you went to. Awkward small talk, bad coffee, someone's cousin crying too loud. Now imagine instead everyone gathers in a tent, burns high-potency cannabis over hot stones, and breathes the smoke together to try to open a channel to the spirit world. Same event, wildly different vibe. And this wasn't a total surprise to historians, either. It just hadn't been proven yet. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote around 440 BCE about people near the Caspian Sea doing almost exactly this, sitting inside a small tent, throwing cannabis onto red-hot stones, and, in his words, essentially getting delighted by the fumes. For centuries, people treated that as maybe an exaggeration, a traveler's tall tale. Jirzankal Cemetery is the physical proof that Herodotus wasn't making it up. He was describing a real, widespread practice. So now the bigger question, where did this even start? Because cannabis itself is far older than the ritual. Mark Merlin, a botany professor at the University of Hawaii who has studied the plant's history, notes that cannabis is one of the oldest cultivated plants in East Asia, first grown for fiber and oil long before anyone was smoking it to alter their mind. Which means there was a gap, potentially thousands of years, where humans were farming this plant constantly and just not getting high off it. The psychoactive use came later, once certain plants, likely growing wild at high altitude, developed unusually strong chemical potency. And someone noticed, here's a fun thing to sit with. Altitude might be the actual hero of this story. Higher elevation plants deal with more UV stress, and some researchers think that stress pushes cannabis to produce more of the compounds responsible for the high. So the Pamir Mountains may not just be where cannabis smoking happened to be discovered. They might be where it originated, because that's where the strongest plants were growing in the wild. Nature basically handed ancient nomads a stronger product by accident of geography. Let's zoom out on the timeline so it sinks in. Cannabis cultivation for fiber and oil stretches back thousands of years in East Asia. Somewhere along the way, we don't know exactly when, high-altitude populations start encountering unusually potent wild strains. By around 500 BCE, we have hard, chemically verified proof. Mourners at Jirzankal Cemetery burning that potent cannabis in wooden braziers during funeral rites, almost certainly trying to reach an altered state to connect with the dead. Around the same general era, Herodotus is writing down second-hand reports of the exact same behavior happening elsewhere in Central Asia. And from there, the practice spreads, along trade routes, through nomadic groups, eventually into the rest of the world, until it becomes the thing you're picturing when someone says smoking weed today. And that's the full flip. We assume getting high is the original impulse, and ritual, medicine, and culture got layered on top of it afterward, almost as an excuse. The oldest hard evidence says it happened backwards. The ritual, grief, ceremony, trying to reach something beyond the living, came first. Getting high wasn't the goal. It was the method. So, millions of years of humans existing, thousands of years of cannabis being farmed quietly for rope and oil, and then one specific moment, high in the Pamir Mountains, around 2,500 years ago. If you want to go deeper on this, the original chemical analysis was published in Science Advances and breathed in something that changed how they experienced their own grief. And it's worth a read if this kind of ancient ritual not a caveman getting bored around a fire. Sources are linked something below. Closer to the first documented drug ritual on Earth. Next time someone jokes about cavemen smoking weed around a campfire, you can tell them the real version is stranger, and it's better documented than you'd think. It happened in a tomb, on a mountain, at a funeral.